Okay, this is a level check. It's meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer. You might hear a little bit of static as I get my microphone on and ready to go. Got one or two more buttons to push here, including the monitor. Got to turn on the lights. Let's see. I think we got it all now. Except I don't have the weather computer up and running, so you're probably still hearing some static. I just clipped my mic onto my lapel. That was the sound of my Diet Mountain Dew can being set down. And let's see, I'm logging into the weather computer. All right, and I'll be just about ready to go. So here's what it looks like outside. Look at that. It's 68 degrees at the International Airport. We've got some high, thin cloud cover. Now, one of the things that meteorologists do is, especially the guys that observe, they report things like this, and that would be reported as sun dimly visible. Okay, now that may not make much sense, but it certainly makes a lot of sense to a meteorologist. You would know if you were not in Cincinnati, somewhere else, that hey, there's some high cloud cover out there, but it's thick enough so you can look at the sun, and gives you an idea what the weather conditions are. And so that's what that is. That is the sun dimly visible. Hang on one second. To get a proper color balance, I got to turn off the work lights, and there we go. So the sun dimly visible behind me as it sets. You see the cumulus down below. We're in a general clearing trend overnight, and it's going to be a cool night, nowhere near what it was required for frost, but definitely a cool night around the tri-state. Here's another camera shot for you. That's our Mount Auburn camera looking to the northeast toward Norwood. Now see the smokestack on the left? If you would go straight out over top of that, you head up into the community of Avondale in Cincinnati. If you go off to the right, kind of from the center of the screen, you end up in Norwood. And if you go way off to the left, you'd end up in Walnut Hills around Cincinnati. And that's I-71 down below. Okay, so there you see the cloud cover beginning to thin out. And you can see in the last frames right out here near Bloomington is the clearing. And so that is coming our way. Now we also, if you look closely at this, you'll see a little bit of this cloud cover beginning to work its way to the north. Okay, from down here in western Kentucky, it's starting to work its way to the north here. And so we're not going to clear out completely. We'll have a clear to partly cloudy late evening and overnight. And there you see the wider view of that. And the wider view shows you, see the cloud cover there in western Kentucky kind of heading more north than anything. That we may see a few high clouds for tomorrow morning. So not completely crystal clear as you head out to work and school, but definitely more sun than anything else. Okay, airport temperatures as of 7 p.m. In the 70s in many locations. Oxford, Harrison, and CVG have all dropped from the 70s into the 60s. And so nice warm afternoon and early evening around the tri-state. Now temperatures compared to this time yesterday are cooler, anywhere from 4 to maybe 11 degrees cooler than this time yesterday. The winds are still on the breezy side out there. These are sustained winds. So anywhere from 9 miles an hour in Batavia, Hamilton, and Batesville to as high as 17 miles an hour in Wilmington. And the gusts out there are now down to below 30. We had some gusts like 37 miles an hour earlier today, but as the sun sets and the day cools, a lot of the energy for creating wind gusts goes away, and so the wind gusts have settled down into the highest there, 25. You saw Oxford just switched to 24. Sunset today at 8:21, so we've got an hour and 2 minutes before sunset gets here. Temperatures will drop off from 68 now to about 60 by 11 p.m., so it looks like a nice evening. And then overnight, we're looking at a low of about 49. Now, 49, of course, whenever we forecast this, we forecast for the official temperature. And you've always got to take into account there are variations. And on nights when the winds die down like they are here, notice they go from breezy to calming down, you get a lot of cold air drainage, so the cool air pools in the valleys. And usually the valleys are the cooler parts, whereas the hilltops are the warmer. And so we're saying 49, but it would not be unheard of for a couple of the valleys to drop to maybe 44 or 45 degrees for a short time tomorrow morning. And then we warm up quite nicely again tomorrow on into the 70s. So here's the forecast for tomorrow. The sun sets tomorrow at 8:23. and we're looking at a high right around that 73-degree mark. So for the most part, another nice day tomorrow. More sun today, less wind, so even nicer than today. And excuse me for a second, I got to take a sip here. So for that morning commute, dry roads, a partly cloudy to clear sky, temperatures in the mid-40s to low 50s. And once again, if you drive a route where you head into the rising sun, make sure you have those sunglasses along, so there could be some sun glare issues tomorrow morning. Okay, now here is the European model. Notice it's got the back edge of the cloud cover just about on top of the Fox 19 Now viewing area. You notice it does try to clear out overnight. We head on into Thursday, and we see some shower activity begin to pop up on Thursday as the next system begins to come our way. Not a lot, but there's some shower activity. Okay, that shower activity settles down at night because it's driven by the heat of the day. Then more shower activity develops during the day on Friday. And as we head on into Friday afternoon, warm enough and humid enough that we could see some pretty substantial rainfall. We're not talking about flooding torrential rain, but we're talking about a few heavy downpours, some claps of thunder in there. Friday could be fairly wet in the afternoon and evening. Notice it does settle down a little bit through the evening, but another little system comes in just after midnight into Saturday morning, and then a few more showers linger around the tri-state on into the afternoon hours, but really hit and miss light sprinkly stuff. After the morning hours, really not much out there. So we have rain in the forecast in the form of scattered showers and thunderstorms, mainly in the southeastern part of our viewing area Thursday. They redevelop pretty much everywhere Friday, die out a little bit Friday evening, come back after midnight into Saturday morning, and then after Saturday morning, which looks like it'll be a pretty wet start, they taper off to just a few hit and miss light showers around the tri-state. And then we put this back into motion, and then we got another system coming our way. This is actually Monday morning. So Monday morning, and what if you see here, you look at this closely, you see this magenta color. Now, that's the model's way of saying this could be there could be thunderstorms in the area. The one thing the models are really good at is getting the conditions when thunderstorms are possible correct. They're very good at that. They're not so good at specific placement. So, in other words, even though this is saying there's going to be a thunderstorm here in Illinois at 10 a.m. Monday due west of Terre Haute, Indiana, that doesn't mean it's going to be there. I mean, there might not be anything here at all. There could be a few scattered over the, but it's telling us to be ready for some thunderstorm activity, and we're not looking at severe weather at the present time. Storm Prediction Center doesn't think anything severe is coming our way through the weekend. And then as we head on into Monday evening, that system moves east and everything begins to die out. European model says that if you add up all the rainfall starting Thursday that falls on into Saturday, that if you're down to the southeast of the city from Georgetown up to Hillsborough, you could see more than an inch, about 0.84 in Maysville, 0.94 in West Union. Now, I've mentioned this before to you, but my rule of thumb for this particular model is that this far out, cut it in probably half. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be that way because when we had the flooding rains that stayed for a while, you couldn't do that. I mean, it was a different situation. But a situation like this, I would say cut it in half. And so instead of 1.1 inches in Georgetown, it might be closer to half an inch. Okay, instead of 4,800, it might be closer to a quarter inch there. However, within this larger framework, could be a few thunderstorms that cause some locally heavier amounts. So, and the point here is that I'm not looking toward flooding rains, but I am looking at fairly wet weather with some frequent showers Thursday, Friday on into Saturday. Okay. Now, what I want to show you here, this is kind of a map of the atmosphere that about 3.5 miles up, okay? The winds up there blow parallel to these bands, okay? So the winds along would be blowing like this, and that's kind of at the base of the jet stream level. And so, and here's a big storm off the coast of Canada right here. Big low pressure system, so the winds blow around it like that. And I want to show you what the models are predicting, and most of them are predicting this. And I'll tie this into beyond the 7-day forecast here in a couple of minutes, okay? So here is and this is what the meteorologists call the 500 millibar level. Roughly sea level pressure is 1,000 millibars, so this is about not halfway up geometrically, but pressure-wise about halfway up through the atmosphere. And it's only about 15 to 17,000 feet. So the winds are blowing like this, following these lines into Cincinnati. Now we want to pay attention to what goes on up here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the program out of program mode, and I'm going to go through this by hand. Okay, so watch what happens in the Pacific Northwest. All right, so no, there we go. It's finally okay. Let me get it moving. I don't know why. I might have a day. Okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. Rather than do it by hand, I will just hit the button and let it play, and then we'll step through it again. Okay, so watch what happens in the Pacific Northwest. Watch the green shade there. Okay, as this starts to move, what you're going to see here is you're going to see the green. Everything's kind of heading to the south and along the northwest coast. Okay, now look at what's coming out of the Gulf of Alaska, right under the words "first alert." That's one of those storm systems, and it's diving southward out of the Gulf of Alaska, originated over the Tibetan Plateau, and you can see it's diving into the west coast of the United States. Okay, now what that does is, as this storm system digs, as we said, when it pushes southward, it's digging, and the terminology a meteorologist would use. So this is digging along the west coast. It's forcing winds out of the southwest and warmer air ahead of it. Now, and we've been begging the people that do our computer systems, the vendor for our computer systems, to give us some of the data for models that go further out. They're working on it. They don't have it here yet. But if we followed this for another 7 days or so, you'd find that this low does this. It digs more like this. There'll be something coming in with the subtropical jet. They'll start to work together, and it'll force warm, moist air into the tri-state. And so when we get beyond the 7-day forecast, if this continues to be the picture, and all the models are saying it will be now, we're going to have to watch for some stormy weather, the possibility of some severe storms. But it's way out, okay? So many things can happen then. I'm not forecasting that's going to happen. I'm just telling you that we're watching for this system to dig into the United States, force warm, moist Gulf of Mexico air into the Midwestern U.S., and bring us the chance of some storms, and I'll point that out when we get to beyond the 7-day forecast. Okay, let's go back then. Here is what the Storm Prediction Center says. It's going to happen between the 27th and the 1st of May to surface temperatures. We will average out that day 6 to day 10 warmer than normal. You can see that there in Cincinnati. The second half of the forecast goes from the 29th to the 5th of May. We stay warmer than normal. And when we take a look at the forecast that was updated Friday, that's weeks 3 to 4, it keeps us just a little bit warmer than normal all the way to the 17th of May. Okay, now that doesn't mean no frost or anything like that up until Mother's Day. It just means that the average temperature will be warmer than normal. And when you take that, you're talking about averaging all the high temperatures with all the low temperatures and comparing them to normal. And just because we have an average that's warmer than normal doesn't mean there can't be 1 or 2 days where the temperature dips a little bit and it's colder, because that's what an average is. It's kind of a central tendency. So here's the warm high temperatures, a cold low temperature, and everything gets averaged out to give us kind of a trend line. And that's what's happening here. We're going to be warmer than normal, but that does not mean we can't see a few chilly mornings. Okay, precipitation-wise, here's what the Storm Prediction Center thinks. Thinks that the Fox 19 now viewing area is right on the border of near normal. That's that gray shade. And the pale yellow, which is a little bit above normal. Okay. The 8 to 14-day outlook makes us a little wetter than that. Okay. Still nothing excessive, but a little bit more precipitation than normal. And the weeks 3 to 4 outlook says that we get even a little bit wetter. So what that's telling me is that not only are we going to have the chance for some showers and storminess as we head to the beginning of May, but we'll have increasing amounts of activity if this forecast verifies as we head toward the middle of May. So we can look for a fairly active several weeks coming up here in the tri-state. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the 7-day forecast. Okay, this is what the sky looked like over my house as it was clearing earlier today. So the 7-day forecast looks like this. 49 and 73 for the low and high tomorrow with filtered sunshine. That means some of those high clouds. Sun and clouds with a low of 51 and a high of 78 on Wednesday, so a couple of nice days. We do have 80 in the forecast for Thursday. Thursday, some scattered showers and thunderstorms, so it doesn't mean everybody's going to get rain. There will be rain in a few spots around the tri-state. On Friday, scattered showers and thunderstorms, 61 the low, 73 the high. And as I showed you on the model run, we may have to, instead of saying scattered, we may have to say numerous showers and thunderstorms. Friday could become fairly wet. It looks like it'll stay fairly wet Friday night into Saturday morning and then taper off to a few scattered showers during the day on Saturday. Our original forecast had a few morning showers in there, but it's looking more and more like with the timing of this, we may have a few hit and miss showers lasting into the afternoon. And then Monday, low of 52 and a high of 75. Okay, we go to beyond the 7-day forecast, and here is what I mentioned, why I mentioned that storm diving along the west coast. So that could potentially bring some storminess the 29th and the 30th. Now remember, this is not I'm not forecasting strong storms on those 2 days at this point. I'm just saying that if that system does what the models are saying, that we're going to keep an eye out for the 29th and the 30th, that Tuesday and Wednesday, for the chance of a stormy episode in the area. Okay, then May 1st, 74. Notice the high temperatures do begin to trail off into the 60s, and by the time we get into the 5th of May, that 67 is colder by a little bit than normal, cooler than normal, I should say. And so here's the graph that shows you all 14 days on the highs and lows. There's 28 temperature forecast numbers there. So most of the time, we stay warmer than normal through the beginning of May. Then we begin to trail off and get a little bit cooler than normal, but not nearly cool enough for frost. Now remember, when we're this far out, a lot of the models we use are generalized. In other words, they're very good at giving you average conditions, but if there's an extreme in there, it isn't often reflected in these, and that's why I'm still being very cautious. So remember, the 11th of May, this is the 5th of May, the 11th of May is Mother's Day, and that's generally the rule of thumb that farmers use to say, okay, by the time we get to Mother's Day, 95% of the time there will be no more killing frost around the tri-state, and you're safe to plant those plants. And when I keep saying tender plants, the typical tender plant in my life is tomatoes. Okay, so if you've bought tomato plants and they're sitting on your windowsill in the sun, you're just itching to get them out there because you want to taste of this. Oh man, nothing like a nice juicy tomato in the middle of summer. So don't do it yet because, like I said, these are averages, and 1 or 2 cold days could sneak in there. And so often, Brad Mousehart and I were talking about it again today, that sometimes you look at it and you think, oh, it's not going to happen, and sure enough, there's another little cold air outbreak. And what could come our way, that system that could bring us that chance of some storm activity on that Tuesday and Wednesday right in here, could eventually pull enough cool air in so we could have 1 or 2 frosty mornings before Mother's Day. So that's why over the years, when I first started in this business, we couldn't do anything to tell you about it this far out. I mean, we are we're just under 3 weeks away from Mother's Day, and it'd be a guess. And that's why we always use the rule of thumb. Okay, we have no idea what's going to happen in 3 weeks, but don't plant until after Mother's Day. Now, we still use the rule of thumb, and we know a lot more. We know that there's not going to be any frost between now and the beginning of the month of May, just from the way the models are looking. But after that, things get a little, the farther out you go, the less certain you are here. And so even though the average temperature is a little bit below normal here, one morning and beyond that could easily cause the weather to be cold enough for some frost. So that's why we continue to dispense that advice. Of course, I'm not telling you what to do. Do whatever you want, but my experience says you're in danger of losing your tomato plants if you go and put them outside yet. Okay, let me check Facebook, see who's saying what, if anybody's saying anything. I don't know what, I hit some kind of a button there. Okay. Oh, no wonder, I hit the wrong button, and it was asking me a question that I'd never seen before. All right. So let's start with the first comment that came in. Kathy Marshall says, hello, Steve from Middletown. Hi, Kathy, and everybody in Middletown. And Betty Plyman. And Betty, I'm still having to apologize to you for saying that wrong if it is wrong. When will it stop raining for a very long time? Well, I just went over those extended outlooks. It doesn't look like that's going to happen for a while. So I'm assuming, Betty, you want something between a drought, which is a long time, and the rain we've been having. We just don't see that in the near future. Through the middle of May, it's going to be fairly active and fairly wet at times. All right. Let's see what comes up next. Melvin Stone Street. Hey, Melvin, how are you? Okay, is it going to be cool tomorrow? Yeah, cool in the morning, but nice in the afternoon, back into the 70s, Melvin. And what we've got, did I have a good Easter? Yeah, I had a great Easter. It was my wife, myself, our nephew, who's in school at the University of Cincinnati and is from Omaha there. And I was doing a lot of yard work, just how it is after a winter like we had. There's a lot of stuff you got to clean up and get ready for the spring, doing a lot of that, walking the dog. So I had a great Easter. I hope you had a good one too, Melvin. All right, and those are all the comments. No more comments right now. So let me go back to the 7-day forecast. We'll go over that and beyond the 7-day, and then we will call it a day. Okay, so here's your 7-day forecast. Tonight's low 49, high tomorrow 73, 51 and 78 on Wednesday, 56 and 80 on Thursday. Again, dry tomorrow, dry on Wednesday, scattered shower activity in the forecast. And let me see, I want you to see this full screen. So there we go. Scattered shower activity in the forecast on Thursday in the afternoon. Friday, we could see some fairly widespread rain, a few mixed in thunderstorms. We do not expect severe weather at this point. Saturday, a few lingering showers into the afternoon. FC Cincinnati plays. We're looking at sunshine with a high of 68 Sunday. And then Monday, the Reds are back in town after a long road trip where they scored 22 runs yesterday, or whatever it was. I forget now, but it was a lot. And then 75 the high on Monday. Here's beyond the 7-day forecast. High temperatures do cool off a little bit, and by the time we get to the last few days on the 7 days, you're a little bit below normal. We are watching for storms on the 29th and the 30th as that system drops our way. Now, one note of caution, this timing could slide either way. If that system coming out of the Gulf of Alaska is faster, these could come in sooner. If it's slower, these storms could come in later, so it would be the first and the second. Or the system just may not have a lot of oomph and just die out. But at this point, that's what we're watching, okay? So I want to make sure you're aware of that I'm not saying it's going to be a severe weather day either of those days. All right, so we go into beyond, or the 7-day plus, and we'll take a look at all 14 days high and low temperatures at one time, and you can see the trend there. The trend is to go a little bit cooler than normal on the high side, and just the last day of these 14 days go below normal on the low side. And again, what I'm saying is that this far out, as things develop, it could get stronger and stronger, and it could drive more cold air in here. And we're not expecting it at this point, but there are a lot of things that can change. And so this gives us a really good look at the trend. We don't expect anything extreme heat-wise or cold-wise or rainfall-wise for that matter. But once we get beyond this 14 days, it gets a little dicier, and that's why we continue to advise you not to plant until we get to Mother's Day. All right, so let's see here. A couple more comments. Susan Wally says, hi, Steve. What an absolutely beautiful day. I love the 60s. Yeah. And I don't know if you mean groovy, the 60s, like peace and love, or the 60s temperature-wise. But they were both, I mean, the 60s temperature-wise are great. I loved the day, too. A little too windy for me, but it was okay. Patty Shannon Veer says hello from Patriot, Indiana. Hi, Patty. I hope you're having a good day and hope you had a good Easter. Okay, that's it. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow at 7:15, and we'll talk more about what's going to happen as we go beyond the 7-day forecast.